And now I'll ask Jimmy Brock to introduce the final portion of our program. His company, CONSOL Energy, is the recipient of the Robert E. Murray Innovation Award, and CONSOL will receive the award at the celebration on Wednesday night. Jimmy, welcome to the podium.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We at CONSOL Energy are truly honored to be the recipients of this year's Murray Innovation Award from the SME. I mean, I knew Bob Murray personally, and he was a very passionate guy at what he wanted to do, so we're extremely excited to be the recipient of this award. CONSOL has had a legacy of being a coal industry leader in the areas of research and development, new technology implementations, and innovation, dating back to the 1940s when we established the first private-funded coal R&D facility in the U.S. As I discussed during the keynote panel with Alex, today we believe we're at a critical point in our energy evolution, with global coal demand at all-time highs, but many rushing at the same time to move away from this valuable resource in ways we believe, quite frankly, are irrational and too fast. Innovation has gotten us where we are today, and we think by doubling down on innovation, we can continue to take advantage of our valuable coal resources in very new ways to keep in critical needs of humanity going forward. This is a key part of our business strategy and a key component of our commitment to sustainability. So today, I am pleased to introduce you to Jacquie Fidler, who is our VP of Environmental and Sustainability, and Dan Connell. He's the leader of our CONSOL Innovations and Business Unit, to share their views on Not So Fast, the continuing role of coal in a sustainable future. So Jacquie and Dan have both been with us for over 20 years. Both of them kind of started out in R&D. They've run many functions within our company. I know we've had Dan at probably 4 or 5 different roles here in the last 8-9 years. But one thing for sure, these two are very, very qualified for what we have them tasked to do, and I think you'll be interested in hearing what they have to say. So at this point in time, I would like to invite Dan Connell and Jacquie Fidler.
Thank you for the introduction, Jimmy, and good morning, everyone. Before we get started, on behalf of our team, we wanted to thank SME for the opportunity to tell the CONSOL Energy story. As you just heard from the panel discussion, energy is key to modern life and our economy, and coal will continue to be relied upon globally for decades to come. With that background, I'm going to introduce the CONSOL initiatives that aim to make coal mining and utilization more sustainable. Then I will turn it over to Dan to challenge conventional thinking and introduce a new value proposition for coal. CONSOL is a publicly traded company headquartered in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. Our Pennsylvania mining complex is the largest underground mining complex in North America, with a capacity to produce 28.5 million tons for use in industrial, power generation, and metallurgical applications. Our CONSOL Marine Terminal in Baltimore provides us with strategic access to the export markets and is the gateway for our product to reach 5 different continents. Our Itman Mining Complex in Wyoming County, West Virginia, produces a low-vol metallurgical product and supports our diversification efforts. We attribute our strong operational and financial performance to our more than 2,000 employees. Ultimately, it's this continued performance that provides us with the opportunity to research, develop, and invest in new technologies that we're going to tell you about shortly. When I reflect on CONSOL Energy's history, one word comes to mind: iconic. Together with our predecessors, we've been mining coal for nearly 160 years. Think Civil War, Abraham Lincoln's assassination, the Gilded Age. In the 1940s, CONSOL opened the first privately funded R&D facility with numerous contributions to the industry, from transporting coal slurry to developing construction materials from coal waste to emission control technology. Our company is guided by 3 core values: safety, compliance, and continuous improvement. Our corporate culture is truly driven by these values. And coupling our strong legacy of innovation and technology with the perseverance of our team, CONSOL has historically tackled the biggest commercial challenges while creating opportunities for our business. And it's no different today. Many believe that coal is obsolete, dangerous, dirty, unnecessary. And they say there's no reason we should be using coal today or in the future. Our response, not so fast. The CONSOL Energy team is once again rising to the challenge. So setting the current state, we have a huge role to play in society and the economy. Coal continues to provide the largest source of electricity worldwide. Coal is helping to alleviate poverty and advance social progress, as nearly 1 in 10 people in the world lack access to electricity. And to put all of this into perspective, even though some may think coal is obsolete, in 2023, global coal production and use hit an all-time high, surpassing over 8.7 billion tons. Some may say, that's today. We must quickly reverse this trend, but that's not how our team is looking at the future. Based on global production and consumption in 2023, it's obvious that coal is needed around the world. Attempting to eliminate coal will undoubtedly create unintended consequences for society and the economy. Between now and 2050, the world population is going to grow by as much as 21% or more. And in parallel, as the world moves toward economy-wide electrification as a way to achieve net zero, electricity demand is projected to increase by more than 150%. How can we promote flourishing societies during this tremendous growth? We say, let's change the narrative. Let's stop talking about an energy transition in a manner that competes environmental aspirations against economic and social advancement. Let's talk about an energy expansion. We see a great opportunity for every single miner in this room to contribute to a positive, technically based, and financially reasonable change. They'll say, but what about ESG? At CONSOL, we stopped talking about ESG, and we started talking about ESGI. Our premise behind ESGI is that there are certain ESG metrics that are addressed with policies, pledges, and programs. But what have pledges, public statements, and disclosures really accomplished thus far? Maybe this is why ESG is losing momentum. To really drive meaningful change and to achieve global aspirations, innovation is absolutely necessary. As miners, we face unexpected challenges on a daily basis. And we are trained to not just talk about the challenge, but to bring the solutions. To us, this mentality is ESGI at its core. Innovation takes time. Innovation takes investment. Innovation takes repetition and failure. But regardless, we must keep trying to advance. And so in the spirit of continuous improvement, we named our sustainability initiative Forward Progress. Our approach, innovate across the entire coal value chain, from the mine to utilization. The value chain is large, and we've cast a very big net, but we are also very intentional with the initiatives we select to pursue. So these 6 criteria serve as a gate for evaluating our R&D efforts, and with each, we are always looking for a specific business case. As we transition to introduce our initiatives, we want to acknowledge the collaboration between a multitude of partners and teammates and their contribution to our forward progress. Our partners range from state government to technology companies to national labs to universities. And through collaboration, we've been exposed to diverse perspectives and expertise that challenge us to think differently. And in turn, we believe that we also expand our partners' visions of coal's role in a sustainable future. Innovation starts at the face and follows the material along the beltline through our stockpiles and processing all the way to the loadout. From a business perspective, the benefits of mining more efficiently, increasing recoveries, and lowering costs are clear and are foundational to remaining competitive in the long term. So can we put innovation to work underground to support these goals? Under our mining data initiative, we leverage third-party and OEM technologies to co-develop custom data collection from underground machinery. Remote monitoring of key processes provides real-time operational feedback. For example, this very busy graph shows raw data from several processes on a single continuous miner. This analysis can be used to improve safety, operational efficiency, and allows for real-time decision-making to occur more centrally. Ultimately, this innovation can provide management with valuable insight on the biggest opportunities to have an impact and improve our business case. On the surface, our technology efforts aim to support achievement of our environmental goals, including our aim to reduce our direct operating greenhouse gases by 50% in the near term, with an aim to achieve net zero in the long term. To do this, we plan to deploy established methane oxidation technology for higher concentration sources of methane. But relying on the established technology alone will not allow us to achieve a long-term goal. To do that, we must find a way to address some of the hardest greenhouse gas emissions to abate: high volumes of ventilation air with very, very low concentrations of methane. These cannot be addressed with existing technology. So putting ESGI into practice, we are partnering with Johnson Matthey and Oak Ridge National Lab to demonstrate and advance a catalytic technology to mitigate these emissions. And most importantly, we are aiming to do so while improving safety and without compromising mine productivity. As an underground miner, coal slurry impoundments or tailing storage facilities are the biggest surface footprint of our operation. These facilities are sensitive and pose operational, safety, and environmental risk. To turn this challenge into an opportunity, we partnered with Omnis Bailey to implement a fine coal recovery process that creates a high-quality carbon feedstock for use in higher value applications. In turn, this process reduces waste to disposal in alignment with our environmental goals. But what about downstream uses of coal? Is it possible to reduce coal's environmental impact? We fully acknowledge that advanced technologies such as carbon capture and storage are critical to achieving global greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. We also believe that the viability of CCS is dependent on clearing some very complex economic, technical, and geological hurdles. As you've heard, we are aiming to reduce waste at our tailing storage facilities. And this project, our 21st Century Power Plant project, aims to design a waste coal and biomass-fueled power plant. This project is an excellent example of how we're looking at innovation synergistically and holistically. This project incorporates carbon capture and storage for net negative CO2 emissions, the bioenergy carbon capture and storage that is recognized as a component of all net zero scenarios. Ultimately, we are striving to advance the state of knowledge surrounding the opportunities, challenges associated with deployment of carbon capture and storage in the Appalachian Basin. Coal's many abundant characteristics make it accessible and essential to the world. And in the US, we can produce our abundant resource responsibly for decades to come. Thinking about the future, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Dan to look even further downstream and outside of the box.
All right. Thank you, Jackie, and good morning, everyone. I'm going to pick up where Jackie left off and really take this in a little bit of a different direction. I would like to share our thoughts about the huge role we believe innovation can play in shaping coal's future, as Jackie said, even further downstream, and why it's critically important for us to get the word out to allow that innovation to happen. So without further ado, I know there are a lot of very smart people in the room, so this statement probably doesn't apply as broadly to all of you. But I'm still going to accept the challenge today to try to make sure that you leave here with a greater appreciation for some of the really high-tech, non-combustion uses for coal that may surprise you and that we should be talking more about. As you've heard very clearly from the keynote panel and from Jackie, we all, of course, know coal as a source of reliable, dispatchable electricity. But I think comparatively few people really appreciate the essential role that coal has played and continues to play in providing basic necessities of human life. Steel, cement, water filtration, and fertilizers are all produced using coal as a key ingredient. So in addition to serving as the largest source of electricity in the world, as Jackie mentioned, coal also provides many of the other basic necessities of human life: food, clean water, shelter, infrastructure, to billions of people around the world every single day. Ironically, when you think about it, even windmills and solar panels depend on coal. Coal provides the carbon reductant needed to convert quartz ore into elemental silicon in the manufacture of solar panels. And over 100 tons of coal are generally required using today's technology to make the steel and cement needed for a 1 megawatt wind turbine. Again, these facts may be very familiar to you in the room, but how about this one? This is the X-59, arguably one of the most innovative prototype aircraft in the world. It's being developed by Lockheed Martin as the centerpiece of NASA's Quest mission, which seeks to allow supersonic flight over land by significantly reducing the magnitude of the sonic boom. Put things into perspective, a sonic boom is 110 decibels, similar to a firework exploding nearby. The goal of the X-59 is to reduce this to 75 decibels, on par with a car door being shut across the street. So the X-59 is scheduled to make its first test flight this year. And how many of you would have guessed that the key components of this aircraft started with coal? I'll let you think about that for a few minutes, more on that one to come. But it's outside the box applications of coal like this that led CONSOL to formally establish CONSOL Innovations as one of our key business units last year. At CONSOL, we believe that coal will continue to play a vital role, as it has since the Industrial Revolution, in providing energy and carbon source to meet basic human needs around the world for decades to come. That's why our core business, as Jackie described, includes our Pennsylvania mining complex in Northern App, our Itman mine in Central App, and our CONSOL Marine Terminal in the Port of Baltimore, and is focused on fueling the world for a better tomorrow. But we also believe that coal can be transformational as a feedstock for meeting rapidly evolving new needs that will become increasingly important as society continues to progress. And that's why we have formed CONSOL Innovations as a new company to focus on reimagining carbon for a sustainable future. Why is this important? Well, while demand for many mined materials is projected to explode under energy transition scenarios such as the IEA's Sustainable Development Scenario, putting a huge strain on limited global reserves. And yes, you're not seeing things. IEA is projecting demand for lithium, graphite, and cobalt to increase by 20 to 40 times over 20 years. So this should be a very exciting, maybe daunting challenge for all of us in the room, and especially for students aspiring to careers in mining. By comparison, we continue to have very abundant coal reserves. And I'll point out this graph is on a log scale, so every line is an order of magnitude. The differences are much larger than they appear, but I wanted things to show up here. This abundance of coal is, of course, very true in the United States, where we are #1 in the world in proven coal reserves, but we don't even make the scale for many of the other critical minerals that are going to be needed for the energy transition. As Jackie mentioned, we also know how to mine this coal very responsibly, in many cases using existing operations and infrastructure, and constantly pushing the ball forward in terms of technology. So, to the extent that we can find a way to use coal in entirely new ways to meet unmet needs of the future, whether that means producing net negative baseload power, as Jackie described with our 21st Century Power Plant project, or using it as the foundation for advanced carbon products and materials, there truly is an opportunity to be disruptive. So what does it mean to be disruptive? Well, according to Google, to be disruptive is to cause radical change in an existing industry or market through being innovative. And as the leader of CONSOL Innovations, just kind of getting started here, I do have to chuckle at the example that Google provides. Breaking a disruptive technology into the market is never easy, so Jimmy, remember that. But in all seriousness, what we are doing at CONSOL is creating a platform for innovation that's focused on carbon management and carbon materials. And our goal is to use this platform to be disruptive in rapidly growing markets of the future that are in desperate need of solutions. Let me give you an example. Here are a few statistics for you to think about. 2 billion, the number of new homes the world needs to build by the end of this century. That's about the same number as currently exists globally today. 4 times the projected growth in timber demand through 2050. 37%, the portion of the world's greenhouse gas emissions attributable to the built environment sector, which I think is an interesting one in particular in light of the discussion we just had. So considering these types of numbers, it quickly becomes clear that we're on the verge of a crisis in sourcing building materials to meet society's needs of tomorrow, especially if we're going to do that sustainably. And innovation is definitely going to be a key piece of solving that problem. So just think, what if our abundant coal resources, or pushing the envelope even a little bit further, waste coal resources, could be reimagined as a feedstock for making sustainable carbon-based building products of the future? That's exactly what we're working to do with the coal plastic composite technology that we've been developing in collaboration with Ohio University since 2018. The concept here is to take pulverized coal, or even better, reclaimed waste coal tailings, combine it with recycled plastic, and produce high-performance, cost-effective, beautiful building products having a differentiated sustainability profile compared to conventional products like pressure-treated lumber or wood plastic composites. Only 9.5% of the 8.3 billion tons of plastic produced globally in the last 60 years has been recycled, and the US alone has hundreds of millions of tons of fine waste coal that can provide a carbon source for these materials. So rather than cutting down trees, our goal is to tap into these huge available volumes of waste plastic and waste coal to respond to the UN Environment Programme's call for recycled materials and ethically produced earth and bio-based materials to meet the world's unmet building needs of the future. Where do we sit with this? Well, we've progressed the technology through R&D with support from the US Department of Energy, so thank you, Assistant Secretary Crabtree. And we've successfully developed a prototype that passes all international building codes for composite decking. We think decking could be just the tip of the iceberg. Next, though, comes the never easy part of breaking this into the market, so stay tuned. Let's do another one. Some statistics again. 2,443 gigawatt hours. That's Wood Mackenzie's projected global EV battery deployment in 2031, representing a compound annual growth rate of 24% from 2021 levels. 95%, the percentage of graphite in typical lithium-ion battery anodes, which makes graphite the largest single component of the battery, larger even than the lithium itself. 98%, the amount of battery-grade graphite that is currently sourced from China. And there's a lot of nines here, so you can tell we're dealing with an extreme, but negative 91.5%, the projected shortfall in North American battery anode supply versus North American battery cell demand in 2032, as projected by Benchmark Mineral Intelligence. Add this up, and it quickly becomes clear there's an opportunity for innovation of alternate battery electrode materials, especially materials that are abundant and domestically and ethically sourced. So again, let your mind wander and think, what if our vast coal resources could be reimagined as an alternative material for making battery electrodes? This is another area that we are very actively working on at CONSOL Innovations. We have a number of initiatives underway in the battery space, but to provide you with one good example, in 2023, we formed a joint venture with XBAT to advance the development of coal silicon oxycarbide anode material as a replacement for graphite in lithium-ion batteries. I know Bill and Sue Easter from XBAT are in the audience here with us today. This technology garnered initial support from the US Department of Energy, and it won the Battery Innovation Center's Voltage Award. Compared to conventional graphite anodes and emerging materials like silicon nanoparticles, potential advantages of the coal SiOC technology include its high specific capacity, low volume expansion, promising rate performance for fast charge applications, and long cycle life. So we're now working with XBAT to test small format battery cells using both virgin coal and waste coal sourced from CONSOL's mining operations. And we plan to scale that up to larger battery formats later this year. And think about it, while the US is entirely import dependent for natural graphite today, current US waste coal fines production from existing operations would be more than enough to cover the entire projected global natural flake graphite demand in 2030. So we're very excited about this opportunity as well. Okay, I left you hanging a little bit with the X59 tease at the beginning of the presentation. And as a coal company, you probably think of our customer base, including typical utilities, independent power producers, people like Jimmy, steel companies, et cetera. But through our wholly owned subsidiary, Touchstone Advanced Composites, which is one of our first true commercial ventures under the CONSOL Innovations umbrella, we actually serve the customers shown on this slide as well. Touchstone starts by producing seafoam, which is a high-performance carbon foam material that's made entirely from coal. That seafoam is then used to make aerospace tools, which are essentially molds that are machined to very high precision on the order of 5/1000ths of an inch. And finally, the coal-based molds are used to lay up carbon fiber composite aerospace parts, such as major components of the X59 shown here. And I will tell you that this is just one example of a number of high-tech aircraft and spacecraft, many of which you would recognize, that were made using coal-based tools. One of the main reasons seafoam is such a good material for this application is that it has a very low coefficient of thermal expansion, on par with much more expensive materials like monolithic graphite and Invar. And that matches the CTE of the carbon fiber parts that it's used to mold and cure. It's also highly machinable, repairable, and about 16 times lighter weight than steel and Invar for a given volume, making it much easier to work with. Seafoam and other carbon products made from coal can be engineered to have a number of other properties that might be very counterintuitive to you as well, such as being highly heat resistant. This makes them very interesting for applications like thermal shielding, fire protection, and so forth. So just think, we're using coal as our thermal shield. Who knows? Someday we might not just be using coal to make the molds for the aerospace parts, but using it directly in the parts to provide certain performance properties as well. And I'll say these are just examples. Our approach is not to put all of our eggs in one technology basket, but rather provide a platform of creative ideas in collaboration with our partners, as Jackie showed, that could help to change the world, quite frankly, with carbon as a very versatile common thread. So coal is used to make cement today. What if we developed a continuous manufacturing process to allow the use of carbon from coal as a lightweight aggregate in concrete of the future? Coal is used to make steel today. What if we developed the technology to enable us to 3D print structures of the future using coal-based materials? And coal is used to supply reliable baseload power today. What if we used it, as Jacquie said, in combination with biomass and carbon capture and storage to supply that same reliable baseload power that the world will need tomorrow, while actually removing CO2 on a net basis from the atmosphere in the process? These are all initiatives that we have actively underway as well. So when we talk about the energy transition, we should think less about abandoning the resources that have enabled society to prosper, and think more about reimagining those resources to continue to allow society to prosper in very new and sustainable ways going forward. And if you're interested in learning more about all the innovative work that's going on, including by many of our colleagues in this space, I'd encourage you to check out the session that Eric Sherrod is hosting on coal to products this afternoon. That'll be at 2 p.m. in room 226A. So as I think you've probably recognized this morning from all that's been said, we find ourselves at a very critical point for both our industry and society at large. Our future is going to depend in a very big way on how our next generation of inventors and decision makers choose to approach the challenges that confront us. So making sure our children, and in particular our students, are provided with the full story and allowed to learn all the facts is of paramount importance, as they will have the opportunity to make or break all of our futures. I'm going to tell you this next story to hopefully inspire you to go back to your own communities and do something similar based on what I just said. So last year, our friends at Touchstone Research Laboratory in Triadelphia, West Virginia, participated in an assembly with the 5th grade class at Wheeling Country Day School. And this wasn't just any assembly. After learning about our seafoam material made from coal mined right there in their home state of West Virginia and its unique properties for the aerospace industry, the class asked if they could send a piece of seafoam to the edge of space. So that's exactly what they did, using a weather balloon and a camera to monitor its progress. It went through the troposphere where we live, and this is an aerial shot of Wheeling, West Virginia. You can see the piece of seafoam, which is actually a few pieces glued together by the students there, resting on the end of a few tongue depressors, and made it all the way into the stratosphere, reaching a maximum altitude of 95,000 feet. So this undoubtedly made an unforgettable, maybe life-changing impression on how these young students see coal, technology and innovation, and even the world. So again, education and messaging are critical to shaping our future. We can either give up on coal and some of our other resources now, focus on the negatives, censor them from our educational programs, or we can teach about the many benefits that coal and our other mined resources have brought to society, the critical role that they continue to play, the need to mine and utilize them responsibly, and the fact that with the right spirit of innovation, the sky truly is the limit. I like it. So it's this very need to educate and communicate truly that has compelled us at CONSOL to launch the Not So Fast campaign and say not so fast. I'm going to now leave you with the flagship video from that campaign. And since I'm talking about innovation as you watch this, I'd encourage you not only to think about how much the world continues to rely on traditional uses of coal right now, but also as you see these images and challenges, think about how through innovation, coal can rise to the challenge of meeting the evolving needs of humanity in very new and different ways in the future.
The world is rushing to renewable energy. But why so fast? What will be the unintended consequences of abandoning fossil fuel-based power before we're ready? how will our quality of life be impacted? To reach net zero by 2050, carbon footprints will have to be downsized. And not just by our energy choices. Speed limits will need to come down. Our thermostats could easily be regulated. Travel restrictions are waiting right over the horizon. Renewable energy comes with a whole new set of resource challenges, and they are staggering. Global demand for several critical minerals is set to skyrocket by roughly 500%. Wind and solar farms will require land the size of Texas. China could control more than 70% of the supply chain for electric vehicles and battery technologies. Without access to affordable fossil fuels, developing nations around the world will continue to face grinding poverty. Coal can be a bridge for these emerging economies to rise up and move ahead, and they have every right to achieve what we have. The world is rushing to renewable energy, but a new narrative is evolving.
Thank you. So clearly a lot of challenges, a very dynamic situation ahead of us, but to echo what Jimmy and Jackie and others have said, we're very capable. We need to approach this rationally and in a balanced way and rise to the challenge, and innovation can be the backbone of how we achieve that. So had the QR code up there. If you like the video and are interested in learning more, that code will take you to the website, the homepage for the Not So Fast campaign. We're also going to have bumper stickers outside the back as you're walking out, so take one for yourself, take a few for your friends and colleagues, and help us spread the word. With that, I'd like to thank all of you for attending this morning and for your attention. Thank SME again for this very tremendous and humbling honor, and wish all of you a very productive, enjoyable, and thought-provoking conference. And I'll now turn things back over to Dave Carnegie.
Thank you, Jackie.